The gaming industry might be in the middle of the largest cultural design shift I have ever seen in my entire life. What I'm talking about is a shift towards making games that I'm going to call in this video unsolvable. What that means is that people are making games where there isn't a linear better option in a lot of situations. There's just different ways to play. And what I really want to talk about in this video is why is that happening? What does that mean for the future of games? And why does that indicate that I think we are on the verge of one of the most important genre resurgences ever? Which, without spoiling too much, is the return of the classic MMO type game. In particular, I'm going to be talking today about World of Warcraft and Path of Exile. But before we get to that sort of a thing, I want to start by talking about a little game you may not have heard of called Ghost of Tsushima. Tsushima is a fascinating game for a lot of reasons. It's beautiful. It's got cool stuff going on. But the thing I want to talk about that I've seen so many people refer to in their reviews is the fact that this game technically does not have linear scaling of difficulty. Enemies don't have more health as you get deeper into the game. They don't hit harder. And in fact, your character doesn't scale up like that much at all. I mean, there's a tiny bit of damage increase, but the main thing that happens is you unlock new attack techniques, which allows you to fight enemies in new ways. The thing that's cool about this is this allows players to kind of engage with any part of the game they want, and technically, you will never purely be unable to engage with a piece of content because it literally just does too much damage for you to even experience it. This is what I'm talking about, generally speaking, with unsolvable game design. There isn't a solution to the best build for your character in Tsushima. There's just like a personal journey you're going on, which is pretty chill. It matches the, I guess, Zen vibes of this game. The thing is, though, is that the genre where I think this style of design has been most interesting is in the MMO space. Recently, the granddaddy of MMOs, World of Warcraft, has done a very interesting thing. They've decided to not let players use what are called add-ons, which are basically they're things that players make which allow them to access kind of the code of the game-ish and see what the like perfect way of playing a certain fight is. If you know, you know. Don't worry about it if you don't. The point is that they've taken away the ability of players to kind of perfect certain elements of the game and replaced it with their own kind of in-house version of that tool. Now, this shift, whether it's actually going to make the next expansion for WoW fun or not, will remain to be seen, but it indicates that the developers are thinking about something they didn't used to think about, which is the metatextual way that players engage with their game. MMOs don't just exist inside the game itself. They exist on websites like Icy Veins or, back in the day, Thoughtbot. A lot of times people talk about how fun vanilla WoW was, and candidly, I think it was a significantly worse game. It was just not solved yet, so there was like still mystery in the way you could play it. Nowadays, WoW is such a solved game because it's old that a lot of what you do is just like read what the best players are doing and then copy them. I think the reason old school WoW felt good was just because of that. And if you want to jump forward a little bit, one of the most popular expansions to WoW in the post-metatextual era was Legion, and more recently Legion Remix, which just happened. And the cool thing about Legion is it's a very difficult expansion to solve. I mean, you hypothetically can figure out what the best legendary items are in the game, but they're so rare and so hard to acquire that most of what you're doing is just accepting the fact that you have one specific legendary and figuring out how to play best in that situation. That's a form of unsolvable design, which is what I want to talk about with Path of Exile. Path of Exile is a game that has introduced the idea of adding so much complexity and randomness to a video game that it essentially becomes impossible to universally solve the game. You have to situationally solve it. You have to look at what level are you currently, what items do you have access to, what is dropped for you, and figure out what's best for your character in your situation. There are oftentimes like ideal builds that evolve in the game, but I think most players would agree you actually kind of have to simulate your character in the exact current situation they are in order to effectively figure out what the best build truly is for you. And I think that's great. I've played a lot of Path of Exile recently, and I've completely avoided build guides altogether, and it's made me enjoy the game quite a lot more. And the wonderful thing I've noticed is that I don't think I'm alone in changing the way I play games. There's been a lot of talk recently around Arc Raiders, which I would argue is like a soft MMO. It's like an MMO, but you just play it in single session style. Either way, the Arc Raiders community has been talking a lot recently about basically just being chill, not being too aggressive when you're doing PvP, stuff like that, which seems to imply that everyone's kind of on board with like make games fun again. I think over-optimization of video games caused a huge dip in the MMO genre. There has not been a consistent flow of cool new MMOs coming out like it felt like there was back when WoW first came out. So I see the demand out there, which is why I think the shift is happening. And here's where I'm going to talk about why I think it's going to happen soon. Unfortunately, AI is the answer. Here's where I'm going to actually say something nice about AI, which is controversial. But AI has the potential to be a tool here. Complexity and situational responsiveness are one of the best ways you can make a game unsolvable, and AI is good at that. The ability of AI to procedurally generate literal levels, but also just randomly generate stats for gear, has the potential to make a game as complex as PoE while still keeping it more accessible. Because, you know, if we want to throw one critique at PoE too, it's got a little bit of a steep learning curve when you first jump in there. If developers can find a beautiful, happy middle ground where there is complexity and situational responsiveness, but not too much of a learning curve, they could achieve this truly unsolvable but still accessible design that would be a lot of fun. And you know what else is even cooler than all that? Even if developers don't find a way to make that happen, we as gamers can get there first. I've been having a lot of fun with Legion Remix recently, and I realized the reason for that is because I haven't been trying to follow any build guides. Legion Remix is like a casual spin-off version of WoW, so it allows the player to not really worry about being the best. And as soon as I stopped worrying about being the best, I was having more fun. And you know what? I can actually choose to do that again in the next expansion. Just because build guides exist doesn't mean I need to read them. It's an exercise in self-restraint because there is a large part of me that wants to like have top percentile DPS and parses and all that. But if I can find the self-restraint to actually just like do the part of the game I find fun and completely ignore what optimal is, and also ignore people in dungeons who are mean to me when I do poorly, I think I'm going to have a pretty good time in this next expansion regardless of design or whatever. So that's my pitch. Us as gamers, let's try ignoring each other and, well, ignoring the mean ones, but also maybe developers help us out. Make it harder for us to solve your games. I think there's about to be a huge resurgence of MMOs because I see this shift in what people are asking for from games, and I'm really excited about what MMOs might be on the horizon. Not you, Ashes of Creation. I'm very concerned about you. I don't have any proof, but I think this game is going to suck. Sorry, that was unnecessary. Just wanted to throw it in there. Either way, hope you liked the video. Hope you're having a good day, and I'll see you in the next one.